Welcome to 602 Row Show. This is covering week 7 review show, I believe. Yes, nailed it.
I had to check it.
We finally have the show back on schedule.
Yeah.
Ending the episode with a rose ceremony, which of course I didn't see coming. Just like I didn't see all the other ones not happening.
Yeah, honestly, I truly don't remember the second rose ceremony because at that point I was actively yelling at my TV and had a lot of wine and bourbon.
There's not a whole lot wrong with that.
Yeah.
So I guess we don't necessarily need the high-level overview, but if you'd like to, Megan, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, let's see how much of this episode I can remember. Let's see. We start off with leftover drama from Sarah and Mara. And then we went into rose ceremony number 6, where we had two girls at home, two, went from 9 to 7. And then we went to Vienna, and Susie got her own one-on-one Pretty Woman date. And then we had a group date where a hack of a psychoanalyst did couples therapy, which we will talk about because I have feelings. And then Serene had her one-on-one that was cut really short. And then we had rose ceremony number 7, where we went from 7 people, technically, to 4.
So, rough week from a scoring standpoint. You'll see up on your screen our picks for week 7. Went in identical and actually came out identical. No one changed any picks, and we were wrong.
We did okay.
We did okay. So, on that note, let's jump into the scoring. Teddy with 3, not okay.
No.
The perfect lineup was exactly what we had, but with Mara instead of Teddy. That's a name that we hadn't even really made an argument for on the pick show. Not expecting her to do a whole hell of a lot, but definitely not expecting Teddy to do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. Slash, I think that she had. Oh, I don't think I looked at this either because she had been eliminated. I think she had like several instances of anxiety or like jealousy or worry, and I think that brought her score down.
Yeah, I know she was at a flat 0 until she cried in the limousine.
She was at negatives for the beginning, like at the beginning of the episode.
So she really hurt us. In an episode where we didn't necessarily think that rose ceremony was going to happen.
Yes.
But even with that rose ceremony Teddy would not have been the optimal lineup.
Yeah.
Teddy had 1 negative for anxiety, worry, or jealousy.
Okay.
She just didn't do a whole lot in the episode.
That's fair. I mean, she didn't do a whole lot this season, considering that she was the first impression rose.
Gabby, we had talked about kind of as chalk at this point, ended up being a safe bet. She came in, scored 22 points, and did so with a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Got 2 roses, which definitely helps. Lost 10 points for expressing anxiety or worry, but then managed to just buoy it on those roses and doing a little bit of everything else. Susie obviously scored a ton of points. Serene had a decent one-on-one as well.
Yeah, I mean, but like even if you look at where everyone ended up this week, there were very few people who had a better lineup than what you and I had. Like I think a lot of people ended up with our lineup or something similar to it across the Rose League.
I think I went from, well, I'll jump to it now here. Global rankings, I think I went from 18th to 17th, and you went from 17th to 15th.
Yeah.
So you'll see the Rose Show scoring there. Cloud Wine way out in front, 45 points and 46 points at this points might be hard to beat. We're gonna split off the picks show and post that one a little bit later in the week here, but definitely getting to the point in the season where leads become insurmountable.
Hmm. And that's a
Um,
pretty damn good lead.
it certainly is. Myra sitting in fourth there, probably too far back, about the same distance back as we are from first, and then Kristen rounding out the top five. Got some sister rivalry drama there in first and fifth.
Well, and I know that we have a couple people in our league who are gunning for that fifth place slot, trying to really make that top five.
Yeah, I know we kind of arbitrarily cut the leaderboard off right there at five, but yeah, the sixth through 11th probably all realistically in play here for that fifth place
Yeah.
spot, if not fourth or third.
Yeah.
So definitely make sure you keep setting your lineups,
Mhm.
and we'll move through that. Did you have anything else high level for row show scoring?
No, no, not for scoring.
As of right now, do not have the Fantasizer weekly update. Um, I won't try to imagine why. Usually it comes out a little bit later in the week to begin with. Maybe President's Day is throwing everything back. Uh, but we've been promising a season long kind of look. We'll definitely go over scoring whenever we get around to filming that episode. Really, all you need to know is that Ashley's still in first and it's not close.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to big three things. What do you
Mhm.
want today? First or second?
Uh, I'll go first.
All right, what do you have for your favorite?
Okay, let's see if you and I have the same favorite. My favorite was that we're back to normal. That we get a full episode that is just hometowns.
So, not my favorite. Uh, I had Clayton's spine stepping up and getting rid of problem girls. That was my favorite part of the episode because it was so out of character at this point. You know, we have 12 hours of Clayton at this point, and I really enjoyed just kind of the turn it took.
Well, so you and I are gonna have probably different opinions here because on one level, yes, I did appreciate seeing his spine for the first time. Um, but on the other hand, I hated the way that he did it, and I found it really manipulative and awful. I thought it was really gross to watch.
I this year more than almost any other season I've watched, the editing I think is painting some of these situations in a darker palette.
I think it is. I mean, like even when you take, I mean, like I don't know how hard it would be to like edit that like sequence of events, but the fact that like he like, I think especially within the context of the episode, right, where like there were multiple, again, very coercive and manipulative things that happen to like these women's emotions on this episode between the group date and then this interaction. For him to sit there and say like that the reason that he's upset is because she's fake crying, like that. Again, on one hand, I was like, "Go Clayton," but then on the other hand, I was like, "Wow, like you are completely invalidating her experience. You have no idea what's happening, and you're being really manipulative about the way that you're doing this, and you're actually being a complete asshole." Like there are
Yeah.
so many other ways that he could have approached that, and so many other things that he could have said that would have been more in line with the person that we're told he is outside of the show. And so, like for me, that was just really, really distasteful, and I really didn't like it.
So I have to be honest, some of how distasteful that was is why I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, 100%.
And
And I
it's
get that. But like
part of what
again,
made it so good.
I mean, I think part of it though is that again, like I keep seeing these news articles coming out about how he's like trying to justify his actions on the show and about how he's like such a kind guy, who is a listener and blah blah blah, and how we're not seeing that. And it's like, yeah, like I get moments like that, but then when you do something like that was really, really bad. Like really bad.
So I take it that is not your least favorite part of the episode.
I mean, it is my least favorite. I actually did write that down. Fake crying. Yeah, and again, like I like even like watching it. I mean, obviously, I watched it with a bunch of other psychologists, which I guess this is the first time I've mentioned what I do for a living. But yes, I watched it with a bunch of like my peers, and like in the moment, again, like my first reaction was like, oh my god, yeah, like how funny. And then like I sat back and was like, ugh, that's actually really, really bad. That's actually really gross, especially for like again when we're thinking about like I think about this show on like several different levels. On one hand, like I love watching it for entertainment and I love like drinking to it. But then on the other hand, like I also recognize that this is a main source of entertainment for a lot of America, right? And so the fact that that was shown and that he was applauded for that is actually really, really like it makes me really uncomfortable because he just modeled something that in a lot of ways could be seen as abusive, especially if that behavior were to continue in other relationships. And so like the fact that that got applauded and got so much attention, like I said, it just made it like when I like sat back and like really let it sink in, I was like that was actually really really in poor taste that they showed it on ABC.
Well, it was a conversation you and I were having about eroding your viewer base. I mean,
Yeah,
that was a slap directly to the face of the exact people who are watching this.
yeah.
Um, but like a lot of things with American culture, I don't think it's gonna matter because no one has the intelligence to have that engagement with the media we're being presented with.
The problem is though that like you're right, but that in itself is problematic because people are passively viewing this and accepting it as truth, right? Like accepting it as like this is the way that people are, like this is the way that relationships should be. They're not questioning it. They're not using critical thinking. They're not applying like what they know about people to be true. Like they're seeing this and they're like, oh, like, this is my model for like what I should be like in a relationship, right? Like this is my model for like how I should treat women or how I should treat men. Like this is like my model of like how I should be. And like that's really bad.
But there's some people that think WWE is real, so
Yeah,
you
but
can't cater to
honestly, like
everyone.
I don't know. Like in some ways, like WWE is way better than this is because like at least that feels a little more fake.
Yeah,
I don't
well,
know.
it might be less
Uh,
scripted, honestly.
yeah. Okay, so what was your least favorite?
My least favorite is that they fixed the schedule because I was so wrong for 4 weeks in a row, and then we put in someone we know is being eliminated instead of trying to find a creative answer. Because why would they choose now to fit in two different rose ceremonies? So, from a game strategy standpoint, at least we know now. At least
Huh?
until we get to this finale, that's gonna be God knows what of a
And like
disaster.
I said, we at least know that the hometown episode is safe. We have no idea what happens post hometown.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that was mine. I'm pissed that when I finally banked on them continuing the fuckery, I was wrong again. So 5 weeks in a row, I've been wrong about the schedule.
Well,
What was your surprise for the episode?
um, my surprise was at the so I wrote the surprise at the beginning of the episode. Um, and my surprise was that the editors actually made Clayton look good for once. Like the fact that like they actually showed like these like for the ceremony rose ceremony 6, right? Like they showed him like giving presents to the girls, like reflecting like on Serene's like trauma and bringing up like these fireflies, right, for them. They showed him like really connecting with some of the girls like ahead of the or at the cocktail party, and he actually looked good for the first time. Like he actually looked like he cared and was listening and like had a personality. And then of course like the rest of the show happened, and then I immediately disliked him again. But my surprise was that for a moment the editors appeared to be putting a different spin on his character, which I thought was interesting, especially because you and I have talked a lot about how interesting the choices of the producers have been making about how to portray their lead and what to do with him. Because it felt like a different player, right? It felt like a different show in a way.
I can't wait for which one of these girls is Bachelorette. just
Hmm.
because of the bizarre ass edits that everyone left has gotten.
Yeah.
It's got to be somebody in the probably the final three, but we'll say the final four, and they all just have gotten really weird edits.
Yes.
I will say Susie's Susie's Pretty Woman date is like just all A roll for her introduction.
Yeah.
So if we
I mean,
miss on
honestly,
that,
yeah. I mean, like if we're going by sheer number of points, which kind of correlates to screen time. I mean, I think we're going for either Sally, Cassidy, or Shanae at this point.
there's no way. There's no way. My surprise was when Clayton walked out Sarah.
Okay.
I even right up until he said, "Can I walk you out?" I
Mhm.
would have been surprised by him walking her out because what he's done all year is not
Yeah.
engage and not
Yeah.
force the issue and let it like simmer and then not give a girl a rose.
Yeah. And just like not make decisions for himself.
So I was shocked that he walked Sarah out. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, there's no way she gets a rose at this rose ceremony, and then she's gone. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, that makes more sense from a systemic standpoint, but
It does. But at the same time, like, I think like that whole moment with Sarah took me so off guard because it was like such a different person. Like he was, right? He was such a different version of Clayton. And it kind of like came out of nowhere, like that anger and that frustration. Um, Again, he's been called far worse by some of the girls that he's kept on this show. And I know that there's like a meme going around the internet about how like, oh, like the first time someone says that, like Clayton has cried, that's what sets him off. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think about like what was actually like a tipping point for him of like what lit a fire under his butt.
yeah, absolutely.
So,
Well,
so what do you have for kind of broad show or stuff on Clayton?
yeah. So the first thing I have on Clayton is she said I cried, and how that is a wild takeaway from the conversation that he's having.
Yes.
Uh, but he had another quote that I hope came from him. My notes were not in great shape, but you have to be able to fall in love before you can be in love. And it was just one of those ones that stuck with me, and I wish I had saved all my Clayton quotes from the season because he's had some good ones.
Yeah, I mean, you could make numerous T-shirts with these quotes at this point. Like,
Uh, we've kind of talked about the Sarah thing. I thought calling her out for fake crying in a vacuum, right in the moment, might be one of my favorite Bachelor scenes. And then just like it was such an about face from how he's been portrayed taking the rest of the season. It felt
yeah,
so weird. As soon as you take it out of the vacuum, it's like, what the hell is going on?
yeah. Well, and again, like I guess, and I want to clarify too that like I have zero problem with him calling out bad behavior, right, and calling out these things, but the way in which he did it was the thing I had an issue with. It's like you don't say to someone, "I'm convinced that you're trying to fake cry right now." Like that's not the way that you say that. And in fact, like that's really awful. Um, and so and there's a lot of problems with that. And like again, like it's the language that he chose to use in that moment that I have an issue with.
That's fair. On a positive note, the after credit scene with Susie.
Keep talking because I have keep it might come back to me because I have no recollection.
He gets in the lederhosen and they dance together.
Yes. Okay.
Incredible. I'm like, all right, so this is this guy that
Yeah.
we had heard about, right? And that we saw a little bit of right before he got kicked off Michelle's season.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, do you want to just like spin? Like
Yeah.
that's that Clayton. Like this is the Clayton that was like, oh, like I hope this is what this season's all about. Like he's just
Yeah.
like a big dumb kid. And it was a lot of fun. Like Susie was having a blast.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, this shouldn't be B-roll on the credits.
Yeah.
Like this is what we should get more of instead of like, oh, I'm gonna take you to the store and like stand here next to all these pink coats.
Yeah.
Like I don't give a shit about any of that, but like that gave me a look at the Clayton we were promised. And it's like, oh, so like this is going on because it didn't just happen with Susie in Vienna, right? It's been going
Right.
on the whole time. We haven't gotten any of it. It's like, oh, well, it's there,
Yeah.
but
And
not.
again, like when I saw that moment between like him and Serene with like the jar of life, which again like is super simple, right? But yeah, I mean like that meant so much to her, and like that is like the Clayton that we were promised, right? Like that sweet, kind-hearted guy, who like really cares and really listens, and we haven't gotten that.
You have
So
anything else on Clayton?
I mean, I'm surprised that you didn't mention it because his the clothing.
I'm trying not to because wearing a quarter zip up with a blazer is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever seen. But like,
Also, an entire outfit. I literally just wrote down in my notes brown on brown on brown. Like it was just like 3 shades of brown that he was wearing. And it didn't match his skin tone at all. Like it was gross.
the lederhosen worked.
I mean, yeah, he should wear that all the time.
I've been trying not to just like call it out because you call it every single episode.
True, but it just keeps getting worse. Like that's the issue, right? Is that like I keep thinking that like we're good. Like, okay, like it can't get worse than this. And then it does.
Well, I do have an outfit attack later on when we're talking about one of the girls.
Okay.
Clayton was not worse dressed on this episode.
Okay.
Elims?
Mm-hmm.
So we had 5 eliminations this week across 2 rose ceremonies and some other stuff that happened. Eliza, Genevieve, Mara, Sarah, Teddy.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take it from the top. Do you have anything on Eliza?
No.
Same. Genevieve.
Um. Yes, I have thoughts on Genevieve, which are related to more of like the group date context. So overall, I'm really unhappy with the group date. Again, speaking from my own profession, it was highly unethical, and very, very disturbing that these women were coerced into doing couples therapy, one unexpectedly and without informed consent, and on live national TV, with basically a stranger. And the fact that Genevieve got punished for not disclosing anything, that's coercion and that's manipulation and that's shitty.
That line, I haven't gone to therapy for a reason.
Yeah. And I'm definitely not going to therapy on this fucking show with this guy who has called me an actress, has put me on a 2-on-1, and otherwise like does not know my name. Like, yeah, girl, I wouldn't either. It was bullshit. Like it was a bullshit date.
I,
And also what that woman was doing was not psychoanalysis. She was doing active listening for the record.
I mean, we won't even get into her credentials, but uh, Genevieve looked over it when she got her rose at that first
Yeah,
rose ceremony. It just, she's not, she wasn't there anymore. She didn't want to be there anymore, but you don't self
again, like,
eliminate before you go to Vienna.
yeah. I mean, like we talked about this on the last episode, and we talked about in the episode before that too. Is like, yeah, I would have been over it too. Like as soon as you put me in that 2-on-1 with Shanae and side with her, like there's no way. I'm done.
Yeah. Mara looked like a mean girl.
Yeah.
She did not have to do what she did. I
No.
was really kind of struck by the comparison of how aggressive and mean spirited she was. And then in her interview after she's been eliminated, crying about how one day she will find love. And it's like, well, you just showed all of America how much of a bitch you are.
Yeah.
So good luck.
Yes. 100%. And I think it's really unfortunate, because I do believe that like Mara is one of those ones where I think that she had like moments of like insecurity, which then like became like really aggressive, which happens to people, right? Like some people get really aggressive when they get anxious, and some people like go inward. And like it's unfortunate that like her ugliest moments are now like forever saved on national TV.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, like I'm sure she's not always like that.
Well,
And like
and she handled her. I'll use the word anxiousness because it's the one you chose. She handled it really well. So she doesn't look like someone combating something internal. She looks cold and calculating. And it's actually a testament to how well she's handling the situation, but it makes her look like a psychopath.
yeah, 100%. And again, like in real life, like you either wouldn't see that from her or you would see like it like once, like in a while versus like that's kind of all that we were shown.
I'll pull us back to this therapy date. If we had a category for least surprising, it would be that Sarah loves therapy.
Um, I don't think Sarah loves therapy. If I'm being honest, or she hasn't had the right therapist yet. um, yeah.
She was shocked that she was walked out. She was more surprised than I was.
Well, she was so shocked. Like I would be too. Again, like rewind to Croatia and he's like all in it, right? Like he's like sitting with her. He's like, nope, like I don't believe those girls. Like I'm here for you. Like I have this great connection. And then like 180, all of a sudden he's yelling at her and telling her that she's a fake bitch. Like, yeah, I'd be shell shocked too.
Do you have anything else on Sarah?
No.
Teddy, I just copied my notes from last week that said yawn and put yawn still. I'm mad at Teddy for costing me a crack at the top 10 in the Rose League.
Yeah.
She did absolutely, she was so boring. And she
Yeah.
did, I mean, it was editing, right? All those girls sat in that room for God knows how long. And Teddy got asked 2 questions and then didn't have any more camera time.
Yep.
That's not helpful.
Not helpful at all.
All right, so moving into the girls who are left,
Mhm.
Gabby. You want to kick us off with some Gabby?
I literally just wrote, I love her. That's all I have. Those are my notes.
So, I mean, same idea. I just have more words for it. She is so bitter, and watching her scheme is one of the most amusing things in the whole episode. But the one thing that stood out to me that really bothered me is when they are at the end of the group date and she's standing with her legs crossed in what looks like the most unnatural position. She looks like a bird. It just does not look comfortable. And now I'm concerned that she's been standing like that this whole time.
I stand with my legs crossed all the time.
Go back and look at how Gabby is standing. It's like an extreme cross.
Okay, I'll look at it.
It's like at the mid thigh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay. Well, I will say, because you brought it up, I think while Sarah may love the idea of therapy, I think that Gabby is truly invested in therapy.
Yeah, I have nothing to refute that. Rachel, who does win the award for worst outfit, her group date outfit was like the pleather faux leather ensemble.
That was Gabby. No.
It
You're
was Rachel. It's like
the brown.
brown and black. Yeah, it was not good. Gabby was also wearing something ridiculous, but it wasn't what Rachel was wearing.
It was like a lavender periwinkle blazer, I think.
Yeah. Her group date drama was kind of out of nowhere, Rachel.
It was her first sign of anxiety, really. Like she, for the first time, really seemed like shook on this.
Yeah.
So, but it was interesting because I actually went back and obviously for the show, was like looking at the utterances or occurrences of anxiety, and she only had one across this whole episode. But for whatever reason, like the way in which she came across on screen, like she just felt like an anxious mess all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
Versus like every single episode prior to this, like she felt so confident and like like was like, nope, like Clayton and I are golden, like our relationship is solid. And this is the first time like she like I was really like, okay, like you're questioning this, like you're feeling feelings.
It really makes me think that the Rachel edit we've gotten is about as far from reality as you could be. There's a
Yeah.
lot of there's a lot of podcasts and media outlets that are like, oh, sources are saying Rachel wins. No sources are saying that Rachel wins. You're just trying to be right first, taking a shot. And I think that her edit couldn't be further from the truth
Yeah.
because otherwise she wouldn't be that worried. Seemingly because Susie got a one-on-one.
Yeah, because Susie got a one-on-one, and then because of Sarah's reaction from Croatia, right? I mean, and again, at one point on the group date, when all the girls are ganging up on Sarah to Clayton, like the quote that I wrote down was, "I know it's not you," as she's talking to Clayton, right? It's totally all Sarah, but like this is the messages, like the messaging that we're getting is that like basically you've already made up your mind. And yeah, I mean, like if she was truly in it in the way that we've seen her in it, then she wouldn't be questioning that.
Yeah. I have nothing on Serene.
So I have I liked the fireflies. I did think that was cute, and again, like it was cute because it meant so much to her. I have something about dancing, so they must have danced at some point. And then I have that her date was cut short to make room for the other rose ceremony. And again, I talked about this last week. Like I hate this idea of like cutting half of a date, especially a one-on-one, right? Especially when we truly haven't seen that much of these girls and Clayton interacting. And so when we're cutting these one-on-one dates, like the one with Sarah last week and the one with Serene this week, we're missing out on so much like connection between
Yeah.
these characters and Clayton.
Yeah, the footage exists somewhere. I'd love to see a whole bunch of non-aired footage.
Yeah.
Susie, who got the first rose in the rose ceremony and then a one-on-one. It's a power
Yeah,
play right there. That's a pretty good combo.
it is. Um, yeah, and again, like she really appreciated the date. Again, I wrote down, actually, this is a quote from one of my friends I was watching with. I think it was at some point during Susie's date where she's like just talking about how she like doesn't spend money on herself, right? And it was such like a treat. And my friend said, "Oh yes, she came from humble beginnings," and it just was really funny. So there you go. That's
She
obviously the headspace that I was in while watching this episode.
she looked fantastic.
Yeah,
That that red dress was something else. Loved when the concierge brought the dress into the room and somebody's like, "Oh, red's his favorite color." And I don't remember ever having heard that during the season, but obviously he's talked about it with the girls. And then Lady in Red as the song they danced to was a nice touch. That was a nice touch. It's one of those Bachelor things. It's so overproduced and bullshit, but like it was a nice touch. I liked it.
well, and see, this is why you and Clayton would get along so well. You know, you both like women in red.
Okay. All right. So that is the girls. Do you have point categories for us this week?
Of course I do.
All right. Let's move right in.
So this time I kind of simplified it and I only focused on the girls, the top four girls, because those are the ones that we are still putting in our lineup. And so we need to know about them, right? So as far as kisses go, Susie jumped up, got 25 kisses throughout the season so far. Rachel in second, Serena in third, Gabby in fourth. And part of that, as we've kind of reflected, is screen time and just like opportunities or what we're seeing. Um, as far as anxiety or worry or jealousy, Susie is the top for these four. Rachel 7, and then Gabby 6. Serena comes up with 4 at the end there. And then if you flip over to the next slide. So with drama for smack talking, Gabby has 10 occurrences, Susie 6, Rachel 4, and Serena has just stayed out of everything, has had 0.
Yeah,
0 occurrences of smack talking.
she's really done a good job staying out of the line of fire as someone who had a connection early.
Well, and again, like honestly, like all four of these girls, so if you look at the next category down, the fighting or confronting, all four of these girls have done a good or not good as far as scoring goes, job of being out of drama, right? Like none of these girls have fought or confronted anyone, right? That's just like who they are. They haven't. And so none of them have points from that at all. And I don't know if we continue that through the end of the season, or if we will have some like inner top contestant drama happening. Do you have thoughts on
I mean, there's certainly a lot we've been shown in previews.
Yeah.
And it's all going to come down to the edits, I guess. It's
Yeah, I don't know if the backlash though comes to the other girls or comes to Clayton. And I have a feeling given the edit that it comes like it gets the blowback is on Clayton, not the other girls. So I don't know if we'll see any points in that, and that'll be an interesting category to watch. So just for funsies, I wanted to look and see because like we obviously have had shifts in who our villain is throughout the season, right? We started with Cassidy, and then went to Shanae, and then went to Mara, and then went to Sarah, and so we have a couple of them. As far as where these girls ended up for smack talking, so obviously Shanae is still at the top with 34 occurrences of smack talking. Mara ended up leaving in second place for smack talking with 20 occurrences, which again she mostly got on like these last few episodes. And then Sarah ended up 12th overall for total number of smack talks. So
she was the victim.
she was the victim. Yeah.
All right. We are going to pop the picks episode out there later in the week. So this has been your week 7 recap. Keep an eye out for week 8 picks. As always, thank you for joining us. Still can get in on Rose League. You can still join and win a week or two. Get some.
Yeah, I mean it's even easier now because there's fewer girls to confuse.
Yeah, get some wins and some experience under your belt. Make sure you are liking and subscribing. We have some fun stuff coming to the channel. I won't say soon because that holds me to some editing, but we got some stuff coming. So make sure you are liked and subscribed so you get new videos right in your feed. We still have probably 6 or 7 videos left in Clayton's season here, so more to come. More to come. They've announced the rest of the schedule. It looks cleaner. I think we're going to end up with two night weeks because ABC has nothing else to run. They keep canceling their shows and airing them on Hulu instead of normal TV. So,
yeah, I mean that's really bad for my body and my liver, but
oh, speaking of your liver, we also have Megan's Malort shots coming your way sometime soon.
yeah, guys. Yeah, we do. I have to find it. It turns out living in Missouri, it's really hard to find Malort.
So we have some larger season stuff from season long to prop bets to season long strategy kind of stuff that will fit in here at some point. So, like I said, like and
Actually,
subscribe.
Jepson, if you are listening, I would love a bottle of Malort. You can just send it.
We'll have to do that on Twitter or Instagram. I don't think they're subscribed to us, but they do follow on Instagram, so we'll reach out. I hadn't even thought of that. All right, thanks for joining us on 602 Row Show, and we will catch you guys next time.